Hello everyone, welcome to Olsen Cafe. In this chapter on linear law, the key concept it is about converting non-linear equation into linear form. And for this part of the lesson, I have already covered in my previous short form video. So if you have not watched it, all right, do remember to check it out. I will include the link in the description below. So alongside, all right, on converting into linear form, what you must know is that you must be able to explain how a straight line can be drawn from here. So this description has been included in my short form video as well. Now, so with this, right, so most of the question that come with it will require all of you to actually to draw the straight line. And from the straight line, and you are required to find the y-intercept and the gradient from the line that you have drawn, and from there you find the unknowns. So this part of the lesson from point number 2 to point number 4, I will be covering this right in my next video. So do remember to look out for it. So in this lesson, I will be focusing on the reverse of the whole process. That is, how can we convert linear form into non-linear equation? So for such questions, right, usually diagram will be given to you. So which means you don't even need to draw and the diagram is given. And for such question, right, usually they will ask you to express y in terms of x or to find the non-linear equation. Yeah. So for cases like this, standard, what do you need? All right, you must be able to find the gradient and the y-intercept. So these are the two that you're able to work it out from the diagram itself. Right, so let's move on to solve this question now. As I mentioned previously, the first thing that we will need to find, it will be gradient. So to do so, I can see from the graph, right, 2 points have been given already. So therefore, to find gradient, it is simply done. Yeah, so all I need to know is the gradient formula. I can get this value easily. So we move on to finding the y-intercept. Now, to find the y-intercept, it is a little bit trickier. So, but what we need to bear in mind is when we want to find the y-intercept, right, we have to take note of this linear form. So whatever points that we want to sub into the equation to find the y-intercept, which is the value of c here, we make sure that we sub into this linear form. So what do I mean by this? So in this example, all right, I have selected to use the point 24. So since the points 2, 4 lies on the straight line, so I want to sub this point into the equation. So therefore, you can see from here, the value of y in this case is 4. So I sub 4 into my y. And then since gradient is equal to negative half, I sub it in. And then the x value, it is actually 2. Yeah, so from here, I sub the values in. I can easily find the value of c, which is the y-intercept. Yeah, so at this point, I just want to highlight one of the common mistake that made by student, right? In this case is to sub the 0.24 into the non-linear equation. Now, what do I mean by that? So if based on this graph, right, I know that the vertical axis is xy. So a lot of students, they simply straight away sub xy into the equations here and then with the x. So then what they do is they simply substitute x equals to 2 with x and replace the y by 4. Yeah, so the moment you do this, right, do take note, you will not get the y-intercept based on this graph here. All right, so do take note of this common mistake. Yeah, so and what I will want to move on here is in the question, right, require us to express y in terms of x. So do bear in mind this y in terms of x, it is not the vertical axis y and not the horizontal axis x. All right, this is the small y and the small x that we are referring to it. So this part of the question is not quite done yet. So I still need to do the last part of the working to make it complete. Now that we have already found the equation of the straight line, so we are ready, all right, to express y in terms of x, which is the non-linear equation. Now, so what we have here is we also know that the vertical axis is xy and the horizontal axis is x. So I will just simply replace the capital Y and the capital X by this. So which means what I'll get is xy equals to negative half small x plus 5. So since what we want to find is to express y in terms of x, So which means on the left hand side, I will need to divide it by x. Yeah, so when I do that, I am able to form the non-linear equation. So therefore, this will be the required answer. Yeah, so this is that's all for this question. Let's take a look at another example. So in this question, right, what you see is the graph is not given, right? Instead, the non-linear equation form is given. Yeah, so how can we proceed to solve the unknown, the value of P and value of Q? So let's understand the problem first. So I'm going to use the approach that I introduced previously called KCNSU, that is kitten cannot swim underwater. So let's take a look at the first letter. First letter is K. So K stands for keywords. So I'm able to identify the keywords from the questions here. Y against x squared is drawn. So when this is drawn, I am able to have a straight line. So by this phrase, right, I know that my vertical axis will be y and my horizontal axis is x squared. Now, so with this, I am able to move on to the next letter, which is C. So C stands for concept. So in the topic of linear law, so what exactly the concept that we are required to know? So in this case, since non-linear equation is given, right? So it is actually quite clear that we will need to actually know how to convert into linear form. So putting this together, I know that since I have y against x squared, right? So I must be able to convert this non-linear equation into linear form. So to do that, I simply make arrangement, all right, to the equations. So I rearrange, all right, and make y as the subject. So to do that, I have y equals to mx plus c. So once I have done this, then what I need to do next is to identify the gradient and the y-intercept. So the gradient over here, right, hopefully you're able to see, which is negative 1 over pq, and the y-intercept here, it is actually equals to 1 over q. So this is the first part whereby we must know how to do. All right, it's so critical. So this is the must. Yeah, so once with this, right, we move on to the next letter, that is n. So n stands for numbers. So we see that in the question, yeah, we do have two numbers. We have 2 and 4. So what are these 2 and 4 here? So what we do see is these two actually referring to the horizontal intercepts. So with this information, I'm able to write down the coordinates 2 and 0. Yeah, and then the next number that we have is 4. So what is this 4 here? This 4 is actually the vertical intercepts. So with this, I'm able to write down the coordinates and 0, 4. Now with this, right, there's one thing that we are able to work it out, because once we have these intercepts, I am able to actually work out the gradient. So what I'm going to draw, all right, to do a simple sketch. So which means I know that the y-intercept is 4. So that means I have here. So that means that this one is 4, and then this is 2. So this is actually my horizontal intercept, which is equals to x squared. This is x squared, and then this is equals to y. Yeah. So with this, right, what do we know? If you can recall, we have learned previously, gradient is known as rise over run. So which means when I have this, right, I know that gradient, it is actually equals to 4 over 2, which is equals to 2 here. But if you make the observation, right, you will notice that this line here will actually give you a negative gradient. So therefore, the gradient for this line is actually equals to negative 2. So with this gradient, and I also know what is my gradient here, right? Now gradient is equals to negative 1 over PQ. All right, so I can easily equate this equal to negative 2. I can find, but you notice there are two unknowns. So that means I am not quite done yet. So what else do I know? I know that my y-intercept here, y1 over q, this is actually equals to this. Yeah, so with all this information, once I am able to find out the value of q, I am able to find out p easily. So with this, we are ready to find the unknown value of p and q. Okay, so we put all the things together that we have, Yeah, so we know that y-intercept is equals to 4 based on the given information. So I can work out my value of q, which is equals to 1/4. And then gradient in my previous slides, we work it out already. It is equals to -2. So with this, and also together with the value of q, I am able to work out my p easily. Yeah, so hopefully with these two examples, I have given you a slightly better idea how can we solve questions involving linear law, that is whereby you need not draw the graph, all right, but you just apply the knowledge that you know, and to express, either to find the non-linear equations or to find the unknowns from the questions. So I hope you find this lesson useful. So do look out for my next video, which I will cover a little bit more in details at what are some of the consideration that you have to make when you need to draw a linear straight line graph. All right, so do check out my video there. So I see you there. Bye.